65 is a sci-fi movie with Adam Driver in the starring role that failed to wow audiences across the board. The movie has one major flaw that doesn't just ruin all the suspense but also has a ripple effect affecting many other essential facets of the movie. Stay tuned to find out how remedying the characters could have saved the movie. Welcome to Rewrite. My name is Pat and today I'm gonna take a look at 65. As I said, the movie has one big flaw. The characters. To be more precise, the lack thereof. There are only two. Just to clarify, the amount of characters isn't detrimental to a movie's success. There are plenty of successful movies with only a handful of characters, such as Saw, Passengers, Open Water and Cast Away, just to name a few. The issue with 65 is the type of movie it is. It does not favor the low number of characters. Since there are only two, the worst that could happen is suffering a severe injury. But death is never a real option. If Mills dies, the girl Koa can't survive on her own. Not just because she's a child, but because his rifle is biometric and she doesn't know how to use any of his tools. If the girl dies, we end up watching an already suicidal character most likely give up. Neither case sounds particularly exciting to watch. So in order to have a movie with only two characters, the writers inadvertently give the characters permanent plot armor, which kills the suspense. It gets worse though. The distribution of attributes between the characters is also particularly dumb. You have Mills, an adult spaceship pilot who possesses all skills, knowledge and tools to get off the planet, and a kid who doesn't even speak a lick of English. The kid is utterly dependent on Mills, which leads to another obsolete conflict later down the road. The rescue scenes feel forced. It's an attempt to make her seem more useful than she actually is. So how would you fix that flaw? The solution is to have a group of survivors. If the movie had a group, and each individual with unique skills, knowledge and tools, we could create a more interesting scenario. With more members, the threat of death becomes a real possibility, removing the permanent plot armor. This doesn't just create believable tension and suspense, but adds another crucial component that the movie lacks: varying conflicts and subplots. This approach would make the movie more engaging and give the audience a reason to be invested in the story and characters. The second issue is bad writing regarding escalating the stakes. The movie is chock full of conflicts, but they're all of the same kind, plot-driven. To be fair, there is one character-driven conflict when Mills lies to Koa about her family, but there's no point to it, because what is she gonna do? Betray him? Run away? Get another escape pod? Nope. She's still completely dependent on Mills, the adult, to get her off the planet if she wants to live. This robs the conflict of any purpose or payoff. While watching the repetitive dinosaur attacks, I was reminded of one particular quote.
Insanity is doing the exact same fucking thing over and over again, expecting shit to change. That is crazy.
In short, the conflicts in the movie lack variety. Yes, there are environmental hazards like the geysers, the swamp and the cave, but they led to the same never-changing outcome: guaranteed survival. So how do you vary these conflicts? To create more engaging and diverse conflicts, the writers should have incorporated both character-driven and plot-driven conflicts. Simply explained, character-driven conflicts arise from interactions with people, while plot-driven conflicts come from interactions with the environment. Having a group of survivors with different skills, opinions and personalities would allow for the development of intriguing drama and strife within the group. This could include leadership struggles, rejection of responsibility, loyalty, intrigue and betrayal, as well as fighting over limited resources. In 65, after the nth dinosaur attack, you've pretty much seen all there is to the movie. That's why the repetitive pattern needs to be broken up with character-driven conflicts. A good story manages to create an engaging pace by balancing both types of conflicts. The attempt is there with Mills' dying daughter, but the subplot is void because it leads to a dead end. Because of their poor choice of characters, the character-driven conflict they have fails to accomplish its intended purpose. Oh no, he lied, and there's nothing she can do about it. Bummer. The writers try to elevate the threat in the third act as it is commonly done, but unfortunately used the most overused, least interesting literal world-ending trope in existence. I'll elaborate on escalating dangers in a smart way in the rewrite section, so stay tuned for that. Overall, a good balance of character-driven and plot-driven conflicts would have made for a more compelling and memorable movie. The premise of the movie instantly reminded me of one particular movie, Pitch Black from the year 2000. In Pitch Black, a spaceship crash lands on a desert planet after being hit by asteroids, and a small group of passengers survive. Among them is a navigator, two mechanics/engineers, a bounty hunter, an antiquities dealer, an imam with 4 followers, a juvenile, and of course Riddick, an escaped convict. Immediately from their social status and jobs, you can tell this is not going to be a cakewalk, because one of them is an infamous killer and he immediately escapes. Right off the bat, the movie smartly smartly escalates the danger. The survivors now have to deal with the inhospitable environment, lack of resources, and the murder on the loose. It elevates the threat by introducing a deadly native species that is susceptible to light, preventing them from staying out of the scorching sun. The movie starts off very tense and manages to keep up the tension by escalating the situation in smart ways, like so. They find a rescue ship, but it has no fuel. When they go to get the fuel, an eclipse causes the native species to roam free. They build a light source to keep them at bay, but it breaks. They start using fire to keep them off, and it is revealed that the rescue ship can't transport them all, causing infighting within the group. A member gets injured, causing even more frustration. It starts to rain and their flames start going out, making them sitting ducks. The thing that the crew needs most, which is light, constantly gets taken away from them. In these scenarios, while the threat is always the same, they run into different problems along the way, which they need to solve very quickly. In 65, the dangers are repetitive. Small dinosaurs, big dinosaurs, flying dinosaurs, cave dinosaurs, bigger dinosaurs, and even bigger dinosaurs. And the solution to that is just as repetitive. Mills blasts everything. There are no creative problems and no creative solutions. Anything that could have been an interesting change of pace was immediately discarded, and the end result speaks for itself. What could a rewrite look like? First of all, add a vastly heterogeneous group, add a few useful people, keep Miles as a pilot, add an engineer, a navigator, and a geologist, and then add useless people, a kid and their mom, a fat accountant, an athlete, a scrawny mathematician. Adding various builds and genders allows for more conflict potential. If that's not enough, add classism, racism, or other forms of discrimination to create fickle bonds between the members. Now, the overarching goal should be reaching the escape pod, but instead of a boring walk, blasting dinosaurs. Make the path dangerous and the terrain treacherous. Having to cross a river or lake or climb a mountain adds versatile dangers appealing to different people in different ways. This is, for example, what made the descent stand out amongst its peers and make it memorable. The claustrophobia, darkness, and isolation, in addition to the cannibalistic cave dwellers. And after managing to get to the escape pod with whoever is left, escalating the situation smartly would have been to have it land in a raptor-infested area. Now, the crew, after trying to avoid the dinosaurs as much as possible, has to fight them head-on with dinky weapons or traps or whatever. This is escalating the plot in a smart way because it's related to the actual primary danger of the movie. Escalation during the third act focuses majorly on losing hope and breaking the spirit, not world-ending meteors, unless that's the main point of the movie. There's more that could be said, like how the language barrier could have worked if the two of them had encountered a primitive native species they needed to befriend, but that changed the story too much. Milt's redemption arc was completely pointless, or him coming to terms with his daughter's death. It would have been more interesting if he had a MacGuffin that he needed to bring back, but then ends up sacrificing it in order to save Koa. If I wanna be mean but accurate, 65 flaunts the writer's previous accomplishment, A Quiet Place, a bit too much. While A Quiet Place was a breakout success, it was built around the gimmick: sound. This made watching the movie a unique experience. For example, 1917 as well relies on a gimmick, a continuous shot. That created a unique cinematographic experience for the audience. 65 doesn't have that. It's a generic survival story like Predator, Alien, or Maze Runner, Scorched Trials, without anything to set it apart from them, besides using dinosaurs. The reason why I don't compare it to Jurassic Park is because they're actually quite different movies. Sure, both have dinosaurs in them, but that's where the similarities end. Jurassic Park is more of a dramatization. It's about a grand dream turning into an absolute nightmare. 65, on the other hand, is pure survival horror. It's closer to Predator, Alien, or Resident Evil than it is to the original Jurassic Park. Anyway, that's it for me for this video. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. What did you think about the movie? Share your thoughts in the comments down below. Don't forget to click like if you liked it, sub if you'd like to see more, and I hope to see you again.